You know, Shane said 20 minutes later, I'd feel a whole lot better about the two of us if you didn't think I was the go-to guy for breaking and entering. They were standing on the professor's back porch, and Claire was peering through a murky window into an equally murky living room. She felt a flash of guilt about the breaking and entering part, but she had called him. Just before her heart did a funny little painful flip, and she heard him say again in her head, the two of us. She didn't dare look at him. Surely he didn't mean that exactly. That meant, friendship or something. He treated her like a kid, like his sister. He didn't. He couldn't. What if he could? And she couldn't believe she was thinking this now, on the doorstep of a dead man. The memory of Professor Wilson's limp, rubbery body steadied her, and she was able to finally stand back from the window and meet Shane's eyes without fluttering like some scared sparrow. Well, I couldn't ask Eve, she said reasonably. She's at work. Makes sense. Hey, look, what's that? Shane pointed. She woke to stare. There was a sound of tinkling glass behind her. And when she turned back, he was opening the back door. There. Now you can say you didn't know I was going to do it. Crime-free. Well, not exactly. She was still carrying the metal cylinder over her shoulder. She wondered if the vampires had recovered yet, and if anybody had thought to question the TA at the chem lab. She hoped not. She was nice. He was nice, and in his own way he was brave. But she had no illusions that he wouldn't sell her out in a hot second. There weren't a whole lot of humors left in Morgan, though. One of the last of them turned in the doorway and said, In or out, kid. Daylight's burning. She followed Shane over the threshold into the Professor Wilson's house. It was kind of weird, really. She could see why he'd been here hours ago, living his life, and now the house seemed like it was waiting for him. Maybe not so much weird as sad. They came in through the kitchen, and there was a cereal bowl, a glass, and a coffee cup in the dish strainer. The professor had eaten breakfast and missed. When she touched the towel underneath the strainer, it was still damp. Hey, so what are we looking for here? Bookshelves. She said, Yo, found them. It sounded odd. She followed him into the next room, the living room, and felt her stomach stink a little. Why hadn't she thought about this? It was a professor. Of course he'd have a gazillion books. And there they were, floor to ceiling, all the way around the room, crammed in together, stacked on the floor in places, stacked on tables. She thought the glass house was Rita's paradise, but this... We have 2 hours, Shane said. And then we're gone. I don't want to risk you out on the street after dark. She nodded numbly, and went to the first set of shelves. He said it had a black cover. Maybe that will help. But it didn't. She began pulling out all the black-bound books, and piling them on the table. Shane did the same. By the time they met in the middle of the shelves, an hour had passed, and the pile was huge. What the hell are we looking for? He asked, staring at it. She didn't suppose. I don't know, would be an answer that would. You know the tattoo on Eve's arm? Shane acted like she'd struck him in the butt with a fork. We're looking for the book here? She gave up. I don't know. Maybe it's worth a try. He just shook his head, his expression something between you're crazy and you're amazing, but not in a good way. She pulled up a chair and began leafing through the books, one after another. Nothing. 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 Claire? Shane sounded odd. He handed her a black leather-bound book. Take a look. It was too new. They were looking for an old book, right? This was a Holy Bible, with a cross on the front. Look inside, he said. She opened it. The first few gold-leafed pages were standard, the same familiar words she had grown up with, and still believed. Eve had said they had been a few churches in Morganville, right? Maybe they had services. She'd have to check. Midway through Exodus, the pages went hollow, and there was a little tiny volume hidden inside the Bible. Old. Very old. The cover was water-stained, dirty leather, and scratched into it was a symbol. Or the symbol. I pulled it out of the Bible and opened it. Well? Shane demanded after a few seconds. What about it? He swallowed hard. It's in Latin. So? What does it say? I don't read Latin. You're kidding. I thought all geniuses read Latin. Isn't that the international language for smart people? She picked up a book without looking and threw it at him. He ducked. It flopped on the floor. Claire flipped pages in the small volume. It was handwritten and faded. coppery ink. The kind of beautiful, perfect writing from hundreds of years ago. She was actually holding it in her hands. And where she'd been intending to just fake it. "We better get going," Shane said. "Seriously, I don't want to be here when the cops come calling." "You think they will?" "Well, if they were Professor Wilson keeled over after stealing the vampire's blind, yeah. I think they'll send a couple of cops over to inventory the goodies. So we better move it." She stuffed the journal back with the Bible and started to put it into her backpack. In outright despair, too much stuff. "We'll need another bag," said. "Something small." Shane came over with a plastic grocery sack from the kitchen, stuck the Bible inside, and hustled her out. She looked back at Professor Wilson's long living room on that side. A clock ticked on the mantel, and everything waited for a life that would never start up again. She was right. It was sad. Run first, mourn later. It was a perfect motto for Morgan Bell. They made it back home with half an hour or so to spare. But as they turned the corner on Law Street, where the Gothic bulk of the glass house pretty much dwarfed all the other newer houses around it, Claire's eyes went immediately to the blue SUV sitting at the curb. They looked familiar. "Oh my God," she said, and stopped dead in her tracks. "Okay, stopping? Not a good idea. Come on, Claire, let's—" "That's my parents' car," she said. "My parents are here. Oh my God!" She practically squealed that last part and would have turned around and run away. But Shane grabbed her by the neck of her shirt and hauled her around. "Better get it over with. If they tracked you this far, they're not going to drive out without saying hello." "Oh man, let go." He did. She twitched her shirt down over her shoulder and glared at him, and he did an exaggerated bow. "You first. I'm watching your back." She was, at least temporarily, more worried about her front. When she cracked open the door to the house, she could hear Ian's anxious voice. "I'm sure she'll be here any time. She's, at class, and young lady, my daughter is not in class. I've been to her classes. She hasn't been in class the entire afternoon. Now you're going to tell me where she is, or do I have to call the police?" Down sounded pissed. Claire swallowed hard, resisted the urge to back up and close the door, and run away, mainly because Shane was right behind her, and he was finding this way too funny to let her escape, and walked down the hall toward the voices, just Eve and Dad so far. Well, "Claire!" She'd know that shriek of relief anywhere. Before she could say, "Hi, Mom," she was buried in a hug and wave of L'Oreal perfume. The perfume stayed longer than the hug, which morphed into Claire's being. Claire's being held at arm's length and shaken like a rag doll. "Claire, what have you been doing? Where are you doing here?" "Mom, we were so worried about you after the terrible accident, but Les couldn't get off work until today." "It wasn't that big a deal, Mom. And we just had to come up and see you. But your room is empty in the dorm. You aren't in classes. Claire, what's happened to you? I can't believe you do something like this. Like what? Mom, would you quit shaking me? I'm getting dizzy." Mom let go and folded her arms. She wasn't very tall, just a couple of inches over Claire's height, even in mid-heeled shoes. And Dad, who was glowering at Shane in the background, was as tall and twice as broad. "Is it him? Did he get you into trouble?" "Not me. I've got that kind of face." "Shut up!" Claire hissed. She could hear that her thought all of this was funny. Shane's just a friend, Dad, like Eve. "Eve?" The parents looked at each other blankly. "You mean—" As one they cast horrified glances at Eve, who was standing with her hands folded, trying to look as demure as it was possible to look while wearing an outfit that looked like something a golf ballerina might wear. All black knitting with a skirt and red satin up top. She smiled sweetly, but it was kind of spoiled by the red lipstick. Had he borrowed Miranda's? The skull earrings. Mom said faintly, "Claire, you used to have such nice friends. What happened to Elizabeth?" "She went to Texas A&M, Mom." "There's no reason not to still be friends." Mom nodded. Claire decided that Shane had been right. There was no getting out of this one. She might as well jump into the pool. The sharks were circling no matter what she did. "Mom, Eve and Shane are two of my roommates here."